Hey, have you guys been keeping up with the Ubisoft stuff as far as the Assassin's Creed thing has been going? I'm not gonna lie, since they pushed it back, I'm not gonna lie, I have been even more and more skeptical about how the final product is gonna be for that game. And I'm not gonna lie, the last game that I played for Ubisoft that I was excited about was Valhalla. Everything after that, I just wasn't interested in playing. So let's see what's going on. This guy right here, he said he spoke to Ubisoft Devs, and he's saying that it's far worse than he thought. So let me see what's going on here.
Things at Ubisoft are far worse than I ever could have imagined. After my last video chronicling the rise and fall of Ubisoft, I had both current and former Ubisoft developers reach out for comment. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the issues that the studios face today from the perspective of their own employees. Everything from Me Too movement allegations to agenda-driven content. I want to contrast the comments made in these interviews with what we've seen from Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws. This company has a deep-rooted leadership issue, going as far to think that the vast majority of online criticism is just a toxic minority of gamers. This company and its leadership think that they are on the righteous path. Little do they know.
I have a quick theory. You know how people have been saying, I don't know if you heard, like, you know, obviously the quality of the games for Ubisoft, it's not where it used to be. And some people are saying that it's because they're spread too thin, because they have too many IPs, I guess, that they're working on. Like, or at least they had a lot. You know, Rainbow Six, The Division, the Assassin's Creed franchise, the Far Cry franchise. They even try to do this whole like ship game called whatever that ship game was. You know what I'm talking about, the last ship game that came out online. That because they're spread so thin, that's why the quality has gone down. But I'm also thinking, what if the same people that was making all those great games 10, 15 years ago, what if those people are not there anymore? Now, I don't know. I haven't done any research behind that, but that's what I'm starting to think. Maybe it's just new people that's there, and those new people that's there, they don't have that same level of skill or passion as the previous employees. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know.
Oh, it's a dead end. Assassin's Creed Shadows has been steeped in controversy and criticism since its initial reveal. Online discourse surrounding the game has been almost entirely negative, with long-term fans of the franchise, general audience, and Japanese audiences up in arms over the creative liberties that Ubisoft has taken with the depiction of Yasuke, the fabled Black Samurai, and feudal Japan. Japanese creators, as well as just random bystanders, have taken to Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube and Reddit, voicing their concerns offended by the game's representation of their history and culture. Inaccuracies like using Chinese architecture instead of Japanese, the legitimacy and relevance of the game's protagonist Yasuke, and even going as far as stealing a flag and imagery from the Sekihara Teppo Tai, a historical reenactment group where the company had to formally apologize for not asking for permission to...
Sekigahara Teppo Tai accused Ubisoft of using its flag in the game without permission, and according to a statement given to PC Gamer, the company has issued an apology to the group. So Ubisoft issued an apology to the group. A spokesperson for Ubisoft said, "We have received complaints that the Sekigahara Teppo Tai's flag was used without permission in 2 published pieces of concept art. We had the opportunity to apologize to the group, and they accepted our apology. Ubisoft may have reached out, but it seems the issue hasn't been entirely resolved just yet." Okay.
To use their materials. Ubisoft's adventure into Japanese history has been a complete disaster, and it's only going to get worse. On September 11th of 2024, an article was penned by the New York Times titled...
You know what I was about to say? I was about to say, I mean, if Japan culture is that sensitive, I mean, it might reduce developers from wanting to make any games set in that region. But then again, you got games like, what is it? Like, you know, the Ghost of Tsushima that has been very, very successful, and they didn't have any issues like that as far as I'm concerned. I didn't really see any outrage of anything for Ghost of Tsushima when it came out. So I guess there is a way to do it correctly. So I don't know, maybe Ubisoft just didn't dot all their I's and cross all their T's when they was developing the game, I guess.
Titled The Fight Over a Black Samurai in Assassin's Creed. The writer, Zachary Small, misrepresents the controversy and player concerns as merely those of a toxic minority of angry Western gamers, and the entire time he fixates on the race of Yasuke and not the broader implications at play in Ubisoft's mishandling and the frank disrespect for Japanese culture and history. This article was a collaboration between Ubisoft and the New York Times in an attempt to redirect the discussions surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows and minimize the feedback. The writer spoke with Kazuma Hashimoto, a consultant and translator for the games industry, later to be found out to be an employee of Sweet Baby Incorporated that did consultant work for Ubisoft, but Hashimoto claimed that it was people in the West who were upset with seeing Yasuke as a samurai, and that many of the online negative comments were written in Japanese appeared to be roughly translated from English, effectively hand-waving the increasingly loud and valid concerns of the Japanese, asserting that it's all made-up outrage. Nothing more than the gamers' war against DEI or inclusivity in video games. I find it all too poetic.
Wait, so is he saying that the Japanese people, all the comments that I've been hearing about Japanese people being unpleased with the fact that there's a fucking black samurai in Japan washing every Japanese person known to man, is he saying that people were not outraged about that? I guess there's more other things that's a bigger problem. I mean, I don't think that would be hard to believe. I think Yasuke was a good idea because he has a very kind of like a blank slate to play with. Like, he's a somewhat of a historical figure because obviously people have heard of him for years, but you just don't know much about him, which means that you can get very creative with him. As opposed to picking somebody who's very historical, there's a lot of information about him, and if you play as that character, there might not be much wiggle room because he has a very strict path that has been documented. But Yasuke, his path is very vague. He has some very exciting things that we've heard about him that may or may not be true, as far as him being a samurai, and we know he's been working, or at least been close to some extent, with a very powerful leader, Nobunaga, and I think that whole era is very, very interesting to a lot of people. The whole Nobunaga and that whole war that took place that led to his demise. So I think Yasuke if you want to pick an actual person to play as that's true to history that exists, I think he's a good protagonist to play as. And obviously you have your Japanese person in a fictional character as Naoe. So I don't think a lot of people be bitching over Yasuke. But as far as all the other historical stuff, I mean, Japan, they're not playing around when it comes down to their culture. If you get one little thing wrong, they coming at your neck, bro. They're not playing over there.
And predictable for a AAA publisher to brush off player concerns and use their connections in the media to try to steer public discourse and sentiment into a favorable direction. All of these claims made by the New York Times, as well as other writers, are patently false. You can see the criticisms of Ubisoft's recent releases and the future release in Assassin's Creed Shadows everywhere. It's impossible to ignore. Videos and promotional material ratioed by dislikes and comments in mass numbers. Videos like mine and many others reaching widespread appeal because we have that many people that agree or share similar opinions. With that said, I couldn't imagine that it was possible for anyone to ignore this level of feedback, and Ubisoft has to be seeing it. So I spoke with a few developers from Ubisoft to shed some light on these issues. I started off by asking how Ubisoft internalizes and discusses general criticism from players and the rest of the industry, whether that's its repetitive design, agenda-driven content, or predictable games. They responded saying, at a high level, they rarely talk about it. At a project level, they brush it off as toxic gamer talk. As Asmongold correctly pointed out in a video of his, Ubisoft is filled with toxic positivity that prevents any growth. I then asked, what about the Japanese community's backlash over Assassin's Creed Shadows? It's obvious that they haven't done their research, and even the smallest details are going to be noticed by a culture that's as proud as the Japanese. They responded by saying that the criticisms haven't been talked about, and they've only issued demands that we mustn't engage with discussion on that topic publicly. Meaning everything that we've said up until this point, all the criticism that we've had over the years for Ubisoft games, even that of the industry itself, has fallen on deaf ears. I don't know if it's sad or if it's somewhat, it's somewhat cathartic to have that validated. I mean, it's the main complaint that the vast majority of gamers have had over the years, which is that these companies aren't listening to us. And in this case, I have developers that are telling me, yeah, they're not listening to you. One, because they don't want to take criticism, and two, because they don't know how to differentiate bad from good criticism. I think this is my patented catchphrase by now, but when you have this much negative discourse surrounding your games, you need to be listening, regardless of whether or not it's good or bad feedback in your eyes, regardless if you align with these people's political beliefs or social political beliefs or whatever it might be. None of that matters. When you have your games on fire as much as Ubisoft games have been lately, you need to put those fires out somehow. And the only way that you can do that is by listening to them and implementing whatever feedback you possibly can into your games to make them better. Regardless, the other thing is, I'm sorry. I am sick of, I am disgusted by the blatant, feigned virtue over how much they care about Japanese culture and history. I'm sorry. You are bastardizing Japanese culture and history for profit. That's what you're trying to do here. You're not trying to make a history piece. We know that. It's loosely based on, very loosely based on Japanese culture and history. Look at you guys. You put out a Torii Gate figurine, a half Torii Gate figurine with your characters on it without knowing the cultural relevance of the half Torii Gate? After Hiroshima...
Oh yeah, I heard about this. This was, well, he said he's about to say it right now, Hiroshima. This was about the atomic bomb that landed on those two islands over by Japan back in World War II. And I guess this was a much more put together structure. This little piece on this image was connected to other structures, I guess. And that was what was left standing after the bomb went off. So I guess he's saying that you guys are using this image. This image represents like a very, very bad day. That's for one. But also it represents a time in history that wasn't around. Like it wasn't looking like that back in the 1600s, which is when the game took place. The game takes place in the 1600s. Like Nobunaga, I believe he died like around like 1582 or something like that. All right. This bomb went off in like 1945. So it's like back in the 1600s, I don't know if that structure was available, if it was around, but it wasn't blown up. So we don't really understand why they used it. So, I mean, I heard about that. So I don't know if they're more mad because of what that broken symbol represents, obviously that war, or if it's the fact that they got the timeline off with this broken thing. I don't know.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Do you have any idea what that means to these people? What's wrong with you? At the end of the day, it all comes down to leadership. When you look at Ubisoft's messaging, the lackluster delivery of titles like X-Defiant and Star Wars Outlaws...
Is that the structure right here? Is that what the structure that they took is that what it looked like? Maybe that structure was around back then, but obviously it wasn't blown up.
Messaging, the lackluster delivery of titles like X-Defiant and Star Wars Outlaws, the inaccuracies and screw-ups with Assassin's Creed Shadows, you see a developer that has no clear plan or vision for what players want, what good games look like, or how to even do their job. I took the time to talk to the Ubisoft developers about working to do their job.
Oh, yo, looking at this name, I thought it said "fuck your mama." Fukuchiyama.
I took the time to talk to the Ubisoft developers about
meet me at Fuck Your Mama, bro. I'm over there.
The initiative that they've taken for diversity hiring and what happens behind the scenes at Ubisoft, and it's wild to see how accurate some of the assumptions that have been made by myself and others. Now, continuing my conversation with one of the developers, I wanted to find more about the workplace structure and management. And seeing as though the company has had initiatives that have been put in place to make the workplace a little bit more diverse, I asked, what benefits have you seen? Is there more diversity in thought, or is it creating a more one-sided environment? They said that so far the initiative hasn't had any impact on the team that I'm a part of. However, it's clear that some topics are taboo. What happened is now that people end up in a meeting with HR for trivial stuff, not adding smiley faces to a message or adding an exclamation point at the end of a message because some people are reporting it for harassment. One of the things that wasn't in your video is that Ubisoft had some controversy during the Me Too period, letting go of a manager in high positions, and some left on their own because they knew they'd be discovered. I then asked, what was the impact of this in the workplace? They responded by saying the editorial direction and overall mindset shifted from the boys club to safe content. Reaching for plain characters like Kay in Star Wars is a perfect example of this. The idea to have beautiful characters such as Baldur's Gate or Uncharted is met with distrust. The developer shared sentiments saying that safe content also leads to limited opportunities on the gameplay side. Even for Star Wars, we had to work with Disney, which would have shut down most attempts at depicting a true criminal underworld with cruelty and drama. When you put this
What? Wait, so you're telling me that Disney, I mean, that's the thing about Disney. Like, Disney is it's just too safe as for kids, obviously. So it's like they want to basically make sure that you're not damaging the children with too much violence or too much like dishonor or whatever you want to call it. You want to lead them into a good path. But honestly, Disney been fucking up kids forever, bro. Like, if you're a Disney kid and you grow up, you watching Disney movies, this happily ever after stuff, you grow up and you become an adult in the real world, you realize life doesn't work like that. All the Disney fantasies, like if you're a guy and you chasing girls and you think, oh, if I just keep on being persistent, eventually she'll love me. Like in Little Mermaid or in Cinderella, you chasing shorty down, you basically being a stalker. In Disney, yeah, that works. You could be a stalker in a Disney cartoon and still get the girl, right? And live happily ever after. In real life, you be a stalker, you're gonna get all types of charges. You're gonna get a restraining order. You might get attacked. You might get blocked. You know what I mean? Like, that Disney shit been fucking up kids from a young age. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the fact that Disney is fucking up games now too, like, come on now. If you're gonna be K, right, in Star Wars, a criminal, but if you're not able to do criminal stuff, like if you're not able to do actual crime, be an actual scumbag, then what's the point of being a criminal in a game if you can't do criminal shit? Like, don't tell me I'm a criminal, underground, like street rat, but I gotta follow the rules. I can't break the law in a game called Outlaw. Like, I'm supposed to be moving and working outside of the law. So it's like, that shit makes no sense. And then the idea of not being able to make beautiful characters because of some kind of like risk, like, who wants to play as an ugly character? Nobody wants to play as an ugly character. You know what I mean? Like, come on now.
Developer's perspective in line with the recent failures and controversies at Ubisoft or any AAA developer at this point, it all makes sense. An overcorrection in sensitivity brought on by the boys club days that many studios experienced during their early years. As such, many games today lack the teeth and grit that players crave because those things are seen as problematic or unsafe to make in the workplace. Don't use emojis or exclamation points. You could offend someone. Holy shit. How soft have we gotten?
Yeah,
it reminds me of the time where the Helldivers 2 community manager went on a ban spree on their Discord because players were using a throw-up emoji on furry art that was posted in their Discord. Sometimes people need to be offended. While I'm going to try to resist the pull yourself up by your bootstraps tirade, friction on...
Yeah, real quick. You see how she just attacked this dude?
On furry art that was posted in their Discord. Sometimes people need to be offended.
Like, you see, like, that's another reason why I didn't play Star Wars. these takedowns, these stealth takedowns are so weak, bro. They have some real weak stealth takedowns in this game that I'm just like, come on. First of all, she didn't even hit that person hard enough for them to be knocked out. Like, there's times where she'll just slap somebody or do like a quick little haymaker, and it doesn't even look strong, and all of a sudden they're knocked out. I seen a video of her doing that to a stormtrooper that has a helmet on their head. They have a helmet, and she's giving him like a left hook punch that even didn't look like it would even knock somebody out without a helmet. But she did it to somebody with a helmet, and they went knocked out cold as a stealth mechanic. And there'll be like somebody in the same room, like maybe 15 feet away, that's not facing them, who doesn't hear this punch. You punching somebody with a helmet on, they don't hear the punch. They don't hear your knuckles hitting the helmet. Like, I don't know, man. It just felt lazy, bro. It just doesn't, I don't know. It just felt like the effort was very low.
Well, I'm going to try to resist the pull yourself up by your bootstraps tirade.
They could have done a much better animation.
On some levels is necessary in life.
Choke them out.
That doesn't mean that people should be allowed to openly harass others, but there are major issues that arise when you have emojis that can get you fired. This overreaction and overcorrection leads to a workplace that is actively hostile towards freedom of thought, expression, and criticism. As one of the interviewees mentioned earlier, they noticed a culture of toxic positivity. From my perspective, toxic positivity is fake people saying fake things, and in the case of Ubisoft, making fake products. Nobody wants to live their entire life being terrified that someone is going to misunderstand them. And when you're at a studio like Ubisoft and you're not even allowed to make characters attractive, otherwise it might upset people at the studio, you have a problem. This culture of fear and forced uniformity stifles creativity and innovation. It's no wonder that Ubisoft is struggling to produce anything of real substance when their own developers are walking on eggshells, more worried about HR complaints than creating groundbreaking games.
Damn.
How can you make bold, impactful content when every idea is scrutinized for being too risky, too offensive, or too unsafe? It's a workplace where mediocrity is rewarded and where pushing boundaries, the very things that games are supposed to do, is seen as a liability.
Wow, he's cooking right now. He's cooking right now. That whole like 10 seconds of what he was just saying, he was cooking. That is so right. And that's not just there. That's in a lot of places. That's just a lot of places in society. Even online. If you text something on Twitter or something like that, you got to be very careful. We live in an age where you could write a message on Twitter, just make a comment on Twitter that can possibly get back to your job and essentially get you fired. Like, you got to be so careful with the things you say out in the real world. And the fact that in a creative place like this, the fact that you can't just let your mind just explode, you can't just let your mind just flourish, just expand and just see what works. Like, you got to be very, very like careful with how you think and how you express yourself. Like, you're stifling the creativity. That's why these games are so bland. That's why these games are so like below average, you know? So he's cooking right now.
This workplace culture, this overreaction and overcorrection has infected just about every single industry that's out there. I worked in construction for 7 years up until last December, and the company that I worked for was more afraid of HR issues than they were of injuries. We worked with hydrogen sulfide and hydrogen cyanide, gases that, if released, could kill half of a city. You know, we've discussed modern audiences, the mythical, magical modern audiences, and soft modern games. We found the audience. It's the people that are running these companies nowadays. You have folks that are walking around on eggshells, afraid to say anything. Anecdotal, but just like a few weeks ago or a month ago or so, I remember I was live streaming, and instinctively I said something was retarded. I'm a millennial. We all grew up saying it. It's a product of my upbringing. Say what you will. I didn't say it consciously. It just came out. And one of my chatters pops up and says, "How often do you say that word?" I banned the fuck out of it. Get the fuck out of here with that. Are you kidding me? People that are out there that are waiting, prepared
to be offended, right? Yep, exactly.
I'm sick of it. You cannot have workplaces that are out there where every single thing that you say. You have to watch every word that comes out of your mouth. Otherwise, it could be your livelihood.
I don't know when did that happen as far as like, oh, you can't say retarded. Like, you can't use that word. Like, I understand this. Like, what's, like, retarded? What is that actually, the definition that word? Like, retarded. Like, what is it? I know how I use it. I use retarded as something that's just like stupid. Like, it's just like, that's how we look at the word retarded back in the day. Retarded meaning, it means less advanced in mental, physical, or social development than is usual for one's age. Okay, so like, what's a synonym for retarded? Synonym for retarded. Just to see why people so like sensitive about it. Delayed, like slow down, held back, set back, keep back, hold up, postpone, put back, detain, decelerate, put a brake on. I mean, it just basically means something that's slow. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. You know, that's basically, that's what we use it for. We grew up in the 90s saying stuff like that. So these new kids, I don't know, man. It's like some Karen must have put a stop on it. There's too many complaints, maybe because they had a bunch of retarded kids and they're very sensitive about it. You know, I like the fact, if you notice, people are more like sensitive or protective over things that only affect them. Like, if it didn't affect them, they wouldn't care. You know, like for example, somebody dies of like cancer in their family, so now they want to start a cancer fund, and now they want to something for cancer, like they want to do cancer parades and all this extra stuff. Why? Because it affects them. It affected them. Somebody in their family died from cancer or whatever. But if somebody in their family didn't die from cancer, or at least for the people who never been affected by something like cancer, they're not thinking about a cancer fund or a cancer parade or trying to donate to cancer, because it never affected them. It's usually the people that it affects that usually wants to champion it, who wants to like fight for it. You know what I mean? So I would have to assume that the people who are actually affected by the word retarded, maybe they're retarded, or maybe they have family members that are considered to be retarded, or whatever is the synonym that they want to use to replace that word, whatever. I guess they feel like the word retarded is too harsh of a word. But then again, I do have to say, we did used to use the word retarded also to express an insult, you know, to even people that aren't retarded. We'll just call somebody retarded as an insult. So people who are actually retarded, back when the word was acceptable, those people, they felt less of a person because the way that they are actually described as, which retarded was a word that people used to use normally. It's like, all right, now what I'm actually labeled as, what I actually categorize as is now is considered an insult, you know? It's like saying, if I'm me being black, it's like saying, what if the word black was an insult after a while? Like, yo, stop acting black, bro. You tell an Asian person, yo, you sounding real black right now. You gotta chill out. Then I guess I'll probably start to feel offended too. Like, damn, like, why you say it like that? Is being black an insult? Why are you calling him black for saying something like, he said something stupid and you say he's acting mad black for that? So you're trying to say all black people are stupid? So I guess that's probably where that originated. People having a problem with the word retarded because it started to become an insult. But I mean, hey, that's how we grew up. You know, 20 years ago, people were a lot less sensitive. So now the world is so sensitive, you can't say words like that now because, you know, things are sensitive these days.
And I'm not saying that you can walk around saying anything. That's not what this is. Everybody knows. I think that's the most frustrating part when you have these kind of conversations, is that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what I'm talking about, but the intellectual dishonesty around this kind of thing is just, it's fucking mind-boggling. We have workplace environments that actively work against any type of creative or constructive criticism. That's how you get games like this. This is how games and products are being ruined over time, is because nobody's allowed to criticize things properly. You have people in the workplace that are like, I don't think that these characters are going to be received well by the fans, but they're not allowed to say anything about it. They can't say it's not hot enough. It's not masculine enough. They can't say that because it's problematic to say so. Tame and safe are the antonyms of exciting and daring. Baldur's Gate 3 was exciting and daring. Star Wars Outlaws, tame and safe. Whether it's their poor job at representing Japan or the trailers of Assassin's Creed, there are clearly levels of incompetency at work. As many players have pointed out in the game trailers, the promotional materials that are meant to sell the game, you can see frame rate issues, texture.
You see what I'm talking about? You see how she knocked him out? Like she walks up on him. He doesn't see her for whatever reason. She walks up on him. She grabs his shoulder, turns him around.
Trailers,
He's like, what happened? What's going on?
Emotional material.
She punches him. I don't know where all that smoke come from. Did she throw smoke in his face? Why is there so much dust that just came off his face from that little weak ass punch?
Reels that are meant.
And now he's knocked out. From that weak ass punch, he's knocked out. Yo, Kay must be like 130 pounds. She's probably 130 pounds, 135 pounds soaking wet. She ain't knocking nobody out like that. Not with a punch like that. She ain't put no real swing into that punch.
As many players have pointed out in the game trailers, the promotional material.
She didn't put no real swing in that punch. Now, I'm not gonna lie. You know what I'm thinking also? A punch like that used to work back in the day in like those old like Western movies from like the 1950s or whatever, like them old ass Western movies. Like punches like that, you can get away with that back in those days. You know, them weak ass punches and the person's knocked out. Back then, you could sell that. But in 2024, you can't sell that, bro. People are a lot more smarter. People seen enough street fights on the internet to know what kind of punch would knock a nigga out. You know what I mean? We've seen enough like real street fights on the internet, if not in person, at the very least on the internet, to know what punches could knock a person out or not. We know this punch ain't knocking nobody out. If anything, that he's gonna hold his cheek like, what happened? Why you hit me? Like he gets knocked out with that punch. Like, come on now. It's just not believable. And I get it, it's a fantasy world, it's a fantasy game. But there's certain elements of the game that doesn't have to be like weak fantasy. You could do something better than that. Give her a taser or something. Like her punching somebody, like come on. Like even Metal Gear, back in the day with Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation, even he wasn't doing that. He was choking people out because a regular single-handed punch, you ain't KOing nobody. It's very hard to KO somebody with one punch. You know what I mean? So come on. You could have choked him out, tase him, something. You know what I mean?
Game, you can
like even in The Last of Us, Ellie wasn't doing that. Ellie was stabbing him up. You know what I mean? I get it. This is Disney. They don't want to stab nobody, but you could choke somebody out or something. Just tase him or something.
See frame rate issues, texture issues, poor collision detection, weapons clipping through characters, and more. Controversies aside, this game doesn't look like it's ready for launch, and in fact, its developer just recently came out and canceled their appearance at Tokyo Game Show and announced that the game would be delayed until February. Along with the delay, Ubisoft CEO recently issued a memo to their employees that ended.
Wait, what happened?
Along with the delay at Tokyo Game Show and announced that the game would be delayed until February.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about this. So this is the actual thing that they wrote. Dear players, Assassin's Creed Shadows is a dream project for us. Finally bringing the series to feudal Japan with many features developed with our community in mind, such as parkour or the renewed stealth brought by new technology, all set in a beautiful and immersive world. This is an ambitious addition to the franchise, a rich experience that can be lived through the eyes of two unique protagonists. But we realize we need more time to polish and refine the experience, pushing further some of our key features. Okay. As such, we've made the decision to postpone the release date to February 14th, 2025. So that's Valentine's Day. Damn, why they chose Valentine's Day? Like, what do you think? We're all incels or something? Like, we don't have like girls that's gonna want to do something on Valentine's Day? Like, what day is Valentine's Day even fall on? Like, Like, when does that day even fall on? I mean, no offense to the actual incels, you know what I mean? But let me see. Valentine's Day, that's on a Friday too. Like, they don't think like, now we gotta choose between our girl or whoever we taking out in the game. That's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be funny. I'm waiting for all the memes. Like, nah, baby, I gotta play. Now way looking for me. Now way and Yasuke, they're waiting for me, babe. We understand this decision will come as disappointing news, especially to those who've been waiting patiently for an Assassin's Creed game inspired by feudal Japan, but we sincerely believe this is the best interest of the game and ultimately your experience as a player. Rest assured, we are looking forward to the moment you will embark on a memorable adventure with Naoe and Yasuke. Until then, we thank you for your ongoing support, and that's from Mark Alexis Cote on behalf of all teams working on Assassin's Creed Shadows. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't mind that they're doing that, because I'd rather the game come out well polished and they get it right the first time than they do some Cyberpunk 2077 stuff where the game comes out, it's shit, and then they fix it, and then a year later it's where it needs to be. Because it's hard for me to come back to a game after I start playing it. After I stop playing it, for me to come back months later, it's very hard for me to do that. And my excitement is no longer there for that. So I don't mind if they take more time to get it right. I have no problem with that. What I've seen so far, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't excited. The only thing I was excited for was the possible story that they was gonna tell, because I'm very excited about that era. Like shows like Shogun, like that whole era with like Nobunaga, like around that 1600 era. I like that era. Like Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, Nobunaga and all that. I love that era. I played those games. I love that era. I would like for them to get it right. I would love to see what they're gonna do, but they gotta polish up that gameplay. Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. I bet I'm back from my little bathroom break. All right, let's finish this up.
Along with the delay, Ubisoft CEO recently issued a memo to their employees that ended up getting leaked publicly, and it showcases just how out of touch this company is with their players. Rather than acknowledging their real missteps, they're clinging to critic scores, pointing out Star Wars Outlaws had a solid 76 on Metacritic. Oh, I didn't know that you were Star Wars Outlaws.
It's the first Star Wars Outlaws. Initial sales proved softer than expected, despite solid ratings from players that recognized the game's faithful transcription of the original trilogy's essence and richness. 76 on Metacritic, 3.85 out of 5 on PS Store, 4 out of 5 on Xbox, and 4.4 out of 5 on Epic. I guess these are all the places that reviewed the game, I guess. While players praise the sense of detail and the beauty of the graphics, the effectiveness of the reputation system, and the endearing characters like Nyx, some also noted areas of improvement. The development teams are already hard at work on this. I guess like they're on the... So that's the thing that I hate about current games, bro. I remember back in the day, like when you had like a Genesis game or a PlayStation 1 game, even PlayStation 2, whatever game you got, that's the game. There was no, hey, send the CD back and let them redo it and they ship it back to you, let them update it. You got a complete product, like when you got the game. It was back then. It was very rare that you had anything that just wasn't the complete polished product back then. Or at least it didn't feel like it. But now, because of the internet, and they're allowing you to get patch notes and updates and all this extra stuff, they're like, listen, we'll send you 70% of the game, and then every week or every month or so, we'll do an update. And it's like, bro, by the time the game is actually where it needs to be, it's like a whole year later. So it's like, what's the point of pre-ordering a game nowadays? What's the point of playing a game day one if you're not going to get the entire game or get the best version of the game? That's why I don't really be pressed to play games day one no more. I be playing games like months after it came out, because then that's usually when all the bugs are taken care of, or there's new updates that made the game more playable or whatever. Alright, so they're saying that the development teams are already hard at work on this, I guess on the improvements, They're focusing on save issues, stealth mechanics. The stealth mechanics in this game does not look good. That's what turned me off. More frequent quest checkpoints and better NPC AI. That's another thing. I was watching a gameplay video, and the NPCs, it looks very brain dead. Like they're just standing out, shooting you, and then they're not like really taking cover. And the game just looked like the only way to enjoy the game is by placing the difficulty on like the hardest level. But then even if you do that, the AI, or at least the NPCs, they don't perform better. They just do more damage. They hurt you more. They do more damage when they hit you, or they become bullet sponges. So it's like, I don't understand. NPCs back in like Metal Gear, like the first one, like the NPCs in Metal Gear Solid was like, that was like groundbreaking for me at that time. That was PlayStation 1. Like, if you're walking in the snow, the enemies, they can see your footprint. And if they see your footprint in the snow, they're like, huh? What's that? And then they'll start following your footstep. And they'll follow your footstep all the way to where you are. Until the snow, obviously it kind of like the footprint goes away because there's more snow dropping that'll eventually cover your footprints. But back then, they had smart NPCs that was following footprints in snow. I don't remember the last time I seen a game that even did that. But the fact that this game is like so many years later and the NPC just looks like it just digressed. Not digressed, it regressed, like it went backwards. It's kind of like mind-boggling. Anyway, it says, I'm confident that these updates will significantly improve the player experience by allowing us to deliver on its promise and make Star Wars Outlaws a must-play game and long-term seller. In parallel, the publishing teams and developers are closely collaborating to increase the engagement with the game and boost player acquisition during Black Friday and the holiday season. So they're hoping to improve sales around Black Friday for Christmas time, I guess, whatever. Man.
Outlaws had a solid 76 on Metacritic. Oh, I didn't know that you were trying to sell the game to game reviewers. That makes a lot of sense, seeing as though that you're completely ignoring player feedback that clearly shows that your game is hovering in mediocrity. Even worse, they believe that Black Friday sales are somehow gonna magically turn things around, not realizing that no amount of discounting will make up for a product that fundamentally misses the mark and nobody's interested in. The memo reads more like a corporate spin than a genuine reflection of failure. No mention of the controversies or deeper issues that are plaguing the company. They talk about how all players want are highly polished games on launch day, when the truth is players are craving meaningful, risk-taking, authentic content. Things that Ubisoft hasn't seen in decades. Even in their own memo to their own employees, they can't speak frankly about their mistakes. This sanitized messaging shows just how deeply disconnected the company is from the people that it should be listening to, the players. Interested in the perspective of the employees who received this memo, I had a few questions on their thoughts of the messaging and the leadership of the company. I asked, what has been the message from management to the staff about Ubisoft's declining sales? What do they believe is the reason behind it? They responded, the fun fact is they don't talk much about it. They mainly focus on the fact that they reached their financial objectives, which are mainly achieved through casual player sales, not the vocal gamer minority that are sick of what you described in your video. Also, something to know is that through the years, the number of management floors has increased to ridiculous amounts. So communication is often blurry unless they come directly from HQ, and even then, it's almost entirely corpo bullshit that isn't useful in the end. I asked another employee to verify the increase in management at the company, fearing that this is likely one of the biggest issues that's facing the company, seeing that lack of clear and creative vision. They painted a picture of a company that's not only overrun with management, but that's passively aggressive about removing higher paid and talented employees while slotting in underskilled and unexperienced management at a cheaper rate. They claim that Ubisoft as an employer shows little regard for their developers. What happens in practice is that they essentially push out senior engineers, promoting junior engineers to senior roles after just a few years of experience, oftentimes with experience in just one engine. Meanwhile, experienced developers with far broader skill sets are being overlooked. This constant cycle of turnover with inexperienced leaders leads to noticeable drops in quality, with bugs appearing in their games. The passionate, dedicated developers leave, while those who are just going through the motions stay behind. This doesn't just affect the technical quality of their games, but also impacts the design and creativity.
Yo, I mentioned this already. This is what I mentioned already. I was saying that I think one of the issues with Ubisoft is that there's a possibility that the people who made those great games from back in the day, like the original Assassin's Creed games or all the old, that was in charge of like getting all that together and just the quality control, and even people who was working on games, they're probably not there anymore. I said that. I'm pretty sure I said that a little earlier in this video. Like, they're probably not even there anymore. So it's like, yeah, Ubisoft, the name, I mean, yeah, it's still Ubisoft, but if you change all the working parts in it, is it really still Ubisoft? You know what I mean? If you change all the people that was making all those great games, who had the great ideas, who had attention to detail, who knew, like, hey, this stealth mechanic is trash. We should definitely fix that. Like, it's not up to my standards. The people who had high standards when it came down to making these games, they're probably not working at Ubisoft anymore. That's probably what this is relating to, what he just said. And he said you got new people coming in that's like kind of like fresh, you know what I mean? And they're used to different engines, so it's like they're learning a new engine. So I mean, it's kind of hard to do your best when you're trying to understand what you're doing first, and then also you got a time crunch, time limit. So he says affecting the quality of their games and creativity. It's probably not the same Ubisoft that we learned to love from years ago, because it's probably a whole different components, different people in there.
For instance, you'll find designers working on FPS mechanics who have never played an FPS game before, or engineers who don't understand how the mechanics they're building are supposed to feel. There's a lack of passion and skill across the board, and the results are obvious. That line about designers working on FPS games and leading FPS projects struck a chord with me. Not long ago, Ubisoft released X-Defiant, a military shooter that was meant to compete with the likes of Call of Duty. However, since the game's release, they've lost the vast majority of their player base, with Ubisoft claiming that the game isn't dying, despite it reportedly losing 94% of its players on Xbox.
Damn.
Why is X-Defiant ran into so many issues? Netcode, hit registration, and general shooter gameplay issues. Common problems that are normally ironed out well before a game ever hits the market, especially a shooter. It's core to the gameplay. If you're playing a live service shooter, all you do is shoot. That's the gameplay. But when the shooting doesn't work, you don't have a game. Ubisoft's leadership is completely disconnected from the reality of game development and player expectations. The problems stem from a bloated management structure that's prioritizing reaching financial targets through casual play.
I'm not gonna lie, this game was actually sounding kind of cool when I was hearing about it. I'm like, so it's like an arena shooter with the theme is all like Ubisoft games. So you have like, I guess you have like Rainbow Six type of characters, like I guess factions. You got like a Splinter Cell type of faction, Watch Dogs type of faction. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I don't think they have Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell or Aiden Pierce, I think it is, from Watch Dogs. I think they just have characters that are inspired from that world. Like this character right here, this is clearly like a Sam Fisher knockoff dude. This is like a Splinter Cell spy character. And I used to love Double Agent. Splinter Cell Double Agent, that was my favorite Splinter Cell, because the online, the Spies versus Mercs, that was a crazy amazing experience playing that game online. That was probably the first online game that I really got addicted to. But this looked like a cool idea, but I haven't heard much about it after like a week or two after people started playing it.
Bloated management structure that's prioritizing reaching financial targets through casual player sales, rather than listening to the core gaming community that's sick of their tired formulas. Even their own developers are frustrated as they watch as talented senior engineers are pushed out of the studios and inexperienced juniors are promoted far too quickly, leading to a noticeable drop in quality. It's no wonder their games are riddled with bugs and lack any real innovation. This company is more focused on appearances rather than creating meaningful, engaging content. The quality of their games doesn't matter as long as they aren't offending anyone. When you see the issues that plague Assassin's Creed Shadows, the pandering...
Bro, they offended me, bro. if I play the game and I'm not enjoying the game and I'm pointing out all these weird, goofy things, goofy mechanics in the game, I'm offended because I spent my money. Now I didn't buy this game, but the fact that they tried to sell me this game when I saw the trailer, the gameplay, I'm like, you're trying to sell this to me, bro? Like, I'm offended that you even think that I would want to buy something like this. Like, Ubisoft has done so much great work in the past. This is not what I'm used to from Ubisoft.
The generic virtue, the lies, the cover-ups, and the lack of understanding of what they're apparently inspired by. When you see how safe and tame, how boring, buggy, and soulless Star Wars Outlaws is, when you see how their most anticipated shooter in X-Defiant is riddled with the most common issues, bugs, all kinds of different things that normal shooters would never have on day one, that's made by developers and led by developers that haven't even played an FPS game, you see a studio and a publisher that lacks integrity and a spine. Cowards in leadership roles, afraid to loosen their grip on the wheel. Developers afraid to speak out and unable to express any of their creativity. Franchises destined for obscurity. Ubisoft isn't just losing its way, it's already lost. And the only thing left is to watch it burn. You know, it's crazy to speculate about these kind of things, but it's an entirely different beast to find out what you've been believing this entire time is absolutely true. And I want to take the time to thank the developers that reached out to me. It was daring for them to do something like that. Obviously, their identities are being kept secret for very obvious reasons. Most of these folks could lose their job over having these kind of discussions. But keep in mind, what's really sad about this is that there are developers that are working at these studios that want to see things change, that want to fix things, that see these obvious issues, but they're not allowed to do anything about it. That sucks. That's something that all of us can empathize with. I'm pretty sure that anybody that's watching this video right now has likely worked with some level of management that took them in the wrong direction, and led them down the wrong path. You know, the biggest issue for Ubisoft is that the damage is already done. Their brand is already torched. Their name and their reputation is in shambles by now. And looking and seeing that they have pushed back Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's for obvious reasons. While they're going to say that it's for fixing issues in the game, there's issues that we saw in the trailer, so that's totally believable. The game likely does need more time in the oven more than anything else. But outside of that, I really think it's just them trying to distance it from all the bad press. Because there's a lot of people that have been talking about Ubisoft. There's a lot of people that have been talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it doesn't look good. And pushing it all the way to February, I don't think any of that's going to change anything. If anything, seeing how often they like to put their own foot in their mouth when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows, you're just giving me and a bunch of other content creators more time to farm you.
I mean, what did I just do? Did I just do something?
More than anything else. I was talking to one of the developers about.
I think if Ubisoft was to come up with another trailer, let's say they come out with like another trailer, I don't know, maybe in February or January, and it's like a gameplay trailer, and there's things that are like improved, like somehow they improve something with the gameplay. Like if they do 2 more trailers, let's say they do a gameplay trailer and then do like a story trailer, I guess, just to give you like a little understanding as to what direction they're going. I mean, and obviously if they made some polishes, they did some updates, whatever, on what people were complaining about, I think they'll still be fine. Now February though, the fact that they choose in February, because there's a couple of games that's coming out in February. I believe Monster Hunter Wilds, isn't that coming out in February also? That's a big game. Another big game that I'm excited for, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I played the first one earlier this year. Loved that game. The first time I ever played it was earlier this year, and I loved it. So I'm definitely excited for the second one, and that comes out in February as well, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what else is coming out, but it's gonna be coming out with Kingdom Come Deliverance and Monster Hunter Wild. It's gonna be a tough month. That's gonna be a tough month.
About the delay, and they're like, one of the things that really confused the whole group of developers is that they're like, well, we need more time to fix bugs and issues, but we're also going to add more quests and side content. They're like, those two things don't have anything to do with one another, and one creates more issues. This doesn't make any sense. And also, you push it to February, the month that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Monster Hunter Wilds release.
Yeah, I just said that.
I want to thank everybody. Thank you guys for watching the last video as well. It was my first 1 million view video. That's just a wild achievement, one that I wasn't really sure that I'd ever be able to achieve, and you guys made that possible, so thank you guys for that. Again, if it wasn't for your guys' support, stories like these wouldn't be able to come out. I hope I get to do more stuff like this in the future, because I had a great time making this video. This is my most favorite video that I've ever made. But yeah, outside of that, thank you guys. If you guys have enjoyed the content, make sure that you're sharing these videos. Make sure you like the video, comment down below, let me know what you guys think.
He said
subscribe
they're
to the channel if
cooked.
you haven't already. What are you doing? Come on, man, just I'm on board. you guys want to catch me live, you can follow me on Twitch. I'm live 2 days a week. I'm working on videos 4 days a week. I'm sleeping 1 day a week.
So this is legendary
but outside
drops.
that, my friends, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys next time.
This is legendary drops. This is a good video. Apparently he got connects, man. He was able to connect and talk to them. That's dope. And he got some information, some inside information. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I agree with the majority of what he said. I definitely agree with that. Star Wars Outlaws was definitely, I don't think anybody was really expecting it to be to be taken in the manner that it has been taken after the release. And I think Ubisoft right now is scrambling, and they're like, listen, Assassin's Creed, this is our last like bread and butter. It's like Assassin's Creed is like basically their bread and butter right now. And they're like, yo, we gotta make sure that this next one hit. Because if it don't hit, then what are people gonna have to look forward to after this? You know what I mean? Like, what are they gonna look forward to after this? Assassin's Creed is like Ubisoft's Mario at this point. You know, it has to be good. So, I mean, I'm not in a rush to play it. I hope they take their time and make it great. You know, and you know, best of luck to Ubisoft with that one, man. Best of luck with that one. I mean, what do y'all think? Y'all think February is going to make a difference, then pushing it back? You think that's enough time for them to make any changes that would matter? You know? Let me know in the comments.